So within the checkout sections, we already discussed some of the other payment gateways that come automatically installed with WooCommerce. With every gateway, you can see that there's a settings section where the online store owner can manage them. In this video, we're going to discuss the configuration of the PayPal payment gateway. I'm going to go ahead and click on PayPal to get me into this area. If we're talking about the security of an online transaction, then PayPal is considered one of the most popular payment options. Obviously, if you're going to be receiving payments via PayPal, then you know all about it. If this is new to you, and if you're thinking that the presence of PayPal and the payment gateway option is sufficient for you to start receiving payments from your customers, then you're actually sadly mistaken. This payment process will not begin unless you integrate PayPal with WooCommerce. So we're going to talk about how this integration is actually done, and then we'll talk about the options that WooCommerce is going to offer in conjunction with configuring the PayPal settings. In order to integrate PayPal into your WooCommerce store, you're going to need to set up a PayPal account. Setting up a PayPal account is free, and you may already have a PayPal account. If you want to ensure that users can send payments to your store, you're going to actually need to create a business account. The business account is pretty easy to set up, but it is a little bit more involved. In order to set up a business account, you can visit paypal.com, and when you actually go ahead and click on business, it's going to take you to information about the different business solutions that PayPal offers. If we go to all business solutions, this will give you a summary of how you can accept payments. So you can accept payments on your website or app, in person in your store, or by email or phone. If you scroll down, it's going to give you more details about the business account options that are available inside of PayPal. It gives you an overview of what you're going to need to do to get started using PayPal. It's also going to tell you the fees that are going to be charged. So you can see that if you're using mobile or in-store payments, you're going to be charged 2.7% per swipe. If you key in the entries, the percentage is slightly higher. And then with online payments and invoicing, you're going to pay 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. You can get more information about the merchant fees if you click this link. If you click this Get Started button, you can get started setting up your PayPal account. PayPal does have two business options that are available for you. They have a free option, which obviously costs $0 a month. You can accept credit cards through PayPal and use PayPal credit on your website. You can also swipe the cards in your store or create email invoices. The professional option costs $30 a month. You get everything that's included in the standard version, plus you can customize the checkout experience to match your brand. You can also keep customers on your website during the checkout, and you can accept phone payments with Virtual Terminal. This obviously is going to keep the branding of your website and probably look a little bit more professional. It does come with a fee though, but if you are doing a lively online business with your website, $30 a month seems like a fair price to pay in addition to the costs that are incurred by PayPal. In this demonstration, we're going to be working with the standard method since it is free. I've already set up a standard business account. If you click Select Standard, you're going to have to enter some information and set up your business account. I'm not going to do this with you as it is pretty straightforward. You're going to need to set this up first though so that you can create something called a sandbox. In this particular course, we're going to be using PayPal's sandbox so that we can mimic the process of accepting online credit card payments. So the first step is that you need to set up your PayPal business account. And then once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and you're going to make a sandbox account. A sandbox account is a type of account that provides a testing environment where you can easily test and verify payment structure before you actually start accepting actual transactions. This is highly recommended as you're going to want to thoroughly test your store before you actually roll it out live to real customers. In order to set up a sandbox account for your online store, you're going to need a buyer test account and a seller test account. You can do this by visiting PayPal's developer section. PayPal's developer section is hosted at developer.paypal.com, and when you first go to the website, it looks like this. Once you've already set up your business account, you'll be able to actually log in with your account. I'm going to do this now. So from your developer.paypal.com page, you're going to go up and click on the dashboard. From the dashboard homepage, you're going to want to click the link for Sandbox. This is where you can actually set up your Sandbox account. When you first come to this page, you're going to see that you already have 2 accounts that are set up. These are accounts that are set up from PayPal. What we're going to do is we're going to create a custom account so that we can use this to test our website. Up here at the top, I'm going to create the link that says Create Account. From the Create Test Account area, you're going to have to specify your country. We'll leave this at United States. You're also going to have to set up the type of account. We're just going to use a personal account. That's the buyer account. That's what we want to create. The buyer account will allow you to test the functionality of someone that's making a purchase on your site. If you want to test the functionality of a merchant, the person who's receiving the money, then you would want to set up a business account. You'll probably want to set up both of these, but the process is very similar. So we're just going to focus on setting up a personal account for now. You're going to have to set up an email address. The email doesn't have to be a valid email, but you are going to need to remember it so that you can finish the purchase once you've actually done it. You're going to have to set up a password for this email account. Again, make sure you remember this because in order to test your account, you're going to have to enter the information for your password. Optional information is a first name and a last name. We're going to leave these blank. For payment methods, you're going to need to set up an initial payment balance. I'm just going to make $1,000 so I have plenty of money to test my account. It is worth mentioning that if you put something other than a numeric value, you're going to get an error message. So don't put any decimals. You can only use whole numbers. You can choose whether you want the account to be a bank verified account or not. We're going to leave this at yes. You're going to select the payment card to test with different payment cards. You'll choose Discover for credit card or PayPal for direct PayPal accounts. Then in the drop-down menu, you can select a specific type of credit card. I'm going to use a Visa card. The Sandbox associates a mock credit card number with the test account. Then you can put a note, and again, this is optional. I'll just put Test Visa. Then I'm going to go ahead and create the account. Once I've created the account is going to be listed down here along with the other accounts that PayPal set up for my Sandbox. Now that I have this account, I can go back into WooCommerce and I can use this to actually test a transaction. Before I actually go to the front end though, I'm going to go into the back end portion and I'm going to ensure that the information under the PayPal payment gateway has been set up correctly. So the things that you need to make sure that you have set up is you need to make sure that you have PayPal enabled, which we already do. You can obviously add a title and a description. You're also going to need to set up a PayPal email. This is your business account email, the one that you used when you set up your PayPal account. It needs to match what you set up in PayPal in order for the payments to come through. So you need to make sure that this is accurate. Because I'm using the PayPal Sandbox, I've already checked Enable PayPal Sandbox. This is going to allow me to use test payments. You will, of course, want to turn this off once you're done using the PayPal Sandbox. But for our purposes here, we're going to make sure that this is checked so that we can test the functionality of our website. There is an option for you to debug any sort of problems that you might have. This is a little bit more advanced and we're not going to worry about this now, but if you do run into problems, you can go ahead and enable logging. You do have the option to add some advanced options as well. And this is important because if you want to receive confirmation emails and if they are separate from the PayPal email, then you would want to fill out this account. So for our purposes here, I'm just going to say orders@stsc.com. Notice that it's separate from the PayPal email. If you're using the same email, there's no need to fill out both of these fields because PayPal is going to automatically notify you of a successful PayPal transaction. So this field is optional. Sometimes you may need to display details of the transaction to your customer. So PayPal offers a secure method known as PayPal Data Transfer, or PDT. With PDT, you can display the details to the customer while the transaction is still underway. To view the details on your website with WooCommerce, you're going to need a PayPal identity token. Again, this is an optional feature that is going to allow you to know about pending or successful payments without the PayPal IPN, and IPN stands for Instant Payment Notification. That's an automatically generated message which notifies the online store owner about the PayPal transaction. So if you provide a PayPal identity token, then customers who are returning to your website after paying on the PayPal site can view a confirmation message with the details of their transaction immediately. This is information that you would need to get from PayPal. We're not going to worry about the PayPal identity token. The invoice prefix is a way that you can assign a unique invoice number and add an identifier for your store. This may be important if you have multiple stores and you're using the same PayPal business account. You want to make sure that any transaction that comes through the Sprinkle This website is tagged with a separate invoice number from another store. Again, I'm not going to worry about this right now. Shipping details will allow you to specify if you want the shipping details to go to PayPal instead of billing. If you're using the PayPal shipping labels, you may prefer to send the shipping address rather than the billing address. So that's something that you'll need to decide. Address override will prevent address information from being changed. WooCommerce recommends keeping this disabled, so we're going to do that. And then we have the option for payment action. This is where you can decide how you want your customers' transactions to be processed. We have two options, capture and authorize. If you select capture, the customer's transaction is going to be verified and processed right after they pay. That means the PayPal status will be set to complete. If you choose authorize, then you'll have to approve every single payment yourself, and then the customer is going to see the PayPal payment status as pending. I'm going to leave this at capture. Usually customers are going to want their payments to get processed and captured right after they pay, so this is a more preferred option. PayPal offers some user interfaces which are going to provide different look and feel. So if you have set up an optional page style in your PayPal account, you can go ahead and choose the page style. Again, we're going to leave this blank. The next section has to do with API credentials. API credentials is information that you're going to need if you're going to want to process refunds via PayPal. There's more information that you can get by clicking on the PayPal API credentials and following this link. Once you have your account set up, you'll need to provide WooCommerce with the API username, the API password, and an API signature. We're not going to worry about any of those things, so I'll go ahead and click Save Changes. Now that I've done that, I'm ready to test my store. I'm going to go into the front end portion of my store, and here I am on the shop page. I'm going to add some items to my cart. I'll go into View Cart, and you can see a summary of the items that I've ordered. And if I scroll down and proceed to checkout, you can see that one of my options that I have is PayPal. I'm going to go ahead and use PayPal, but I'm going to need to enter the email address that's associated with the test account. So you'll need to remember what that is, or if you need to get it from your sandbox, you can go ahead and copy paste it. And then you would fill in the rest of the information. And when we click Proceed to PayPal, and you can see at the bottom, because I set up that terms and conditions page in the last video, I'm going to need to check that I've read that. It also offers me a link to the terms and conditions page if I want to review it. I'm going to check this so that I can complete the transaction. When I click the button to proceed to PayPal, it's going to actually take me away from my website and take me to PayPal's website. Here, I'm going to need to choose how I want to pay. It's important that you use the email address that you set up in your sandbox, as well as the password that you had specified when you set up your sandbox account. Once you click Login, it's going to authenticate the process, and obviously you need to agree to PayPal's terms, but it does give you an option, just like you normally would have, to complete the transaction. This would be the same exact steps as if I actually put in a real credit card. I'm going to click Pay Now, and it's going to show that I've now just made a payment. It also is going to allow me to print a receipt and show who I'm making the payment to. It gives me a payment ID value, and it's going to set a confirmation, and it's going to send a confirmation email to the email address that you used when you set up your Sandbox account. If this was a real email address, I could actually go into my email account and check the email. I'm going to go back into the admin section of WooCommerce, and under WooCommerce, I'm going to go to the order section. You can now see under orders that I have a new order that's been processed. It's going to give me details about this order. So it's going to tell me what items were purchased, where it's going to ship to, the date, and the amount. And you can click any of these items that are links to be able to get more information about these items. So by setting up the Sandbox, you're able to fully test your e-commerce website and see how a user would actually go through the process. You can do this multiple times, and you can have multiple Sandbox accounts that you could use to test. I highly recommend that if you're going to go through PayPal, you go ahead and take the time to set up the Sandbox accounts so that you're able to fully test your account before you push it live to the web.